Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Fucking fantastic. How are you?
Good. Welcome back to another episode of Wicked.
Mysterious.
I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm Katie.
And this is Mini
Mystery
Monday.
That's right.
So we can't be too excited when we say Monday because Bailey Sarian says that.
Yep. She says Monday. And we can't cop her style.
Yeah, I don't want to be accused of stealing from her. That is the last thing.
Yeah, for real. We already kind of like cut it close with the whole mini Mystery Monday, but it's not makeup, Bailey. So, yeah. And I love you anyway. I love Bailey.
I think I've watched her a little bit, but not enough to know like who she is.
Danny would love you, Bailey.
Yeah. I love you anyway.
Yeah. All right. I'm really excited to do my first mini mystery.
I am too.
All right. Could you imagine waking up one day and there being little and subtle differences in your world that were totally unexplainable? My mini mystery today is about just that. A woman who claims that the only way to explain her experience is that she woke up in a different dimension or parallel universe. This story became popular online after she posted her story in an online multiple universes forum in hopes that someone had experienced something similar to her.
Ooh.
Let's get into it. On July 16, 2008, Lorena Garcia Gordo was a 41-year-old Spanish woman living a very normal life. She had recently found new love after a painfully long 7-year relationship with a man named Miguel that didn't work out. She was head over heels for a man named Augustin, who conveniently lived right down the road. 4 months in, she had just started to become very close to his son. She was feeling like she had a new lease on life since her ex had moved out and she had the apartment all to herself. She was starting all over and she was happier than ever. One morning, though, was unlike any other Lorena had ever experienced. She opened her eyes to what she considered her normal every morning alarm and immediately noticed something was very strange. The sheets she laid upon were not the sheets she had dressed her bed with. In fact, she didn't recognize these sheets at all. Immediately, she recognized the color was not of any set that she had ever owned, and next realized they were completely different material than she even preferred. This was not her bedding set. Perplexed, she got up, knowing that as strange AF as this was, she had to get to work on time. She got into the shower and got dressed and continued on with her morning, still shocked about how the bedding thing was possible. She left her apartment and continued to the building's parking garage. There she found her car parked in her normal spot. I imagine that it was an assigned spot dedicated to her apartment, but this info is not known. She got into her car, reversed, and took off to get to work on time. Everything about her route was completely the same. As she drove, she couldn't stop thinking about ways to explain the bedding that she woke up on, and that she was positive that those were not what she climbed into to sleep the night before. She knew it was going to drive her mad, but she had work to do. She had to figure this out later. Lorena pulled into work and parked where she normally did. She had been at this company's office job for 20 years and was well known and respected. She entered into the main lobby and right away she noticed several unfamiliar faces. Normally, she would greet and be greeted by everyone she walked past every single morning, but this morning she thought there had to be some new hires or something.
What is she, Casey Anthony? Like walking through a building like, oh, hello, to everybody she doesn't know.
Fucking Casey, man. I can't. Good one. She took the elevator to her floor and approached her office door when immediately she was stunned by a very confusing difference. The name on the plaque outside her door was not her name. She immediately looked around thinking she must have gotten off on the wrong floor, but no, this was the correct floor, and surely this was her office that she had literally had for 2 decades. She opened the door, feeling confident that there has to be a mistake, and it was indeed her office space, but immediately she didn't recognize the desk items. She sat down at the desk and turned the computer monitor on and logged in with her credentials, and to her relief, her username and password went through. She immediately started to feel a bit insulted, thinking, did they fire me? Did they fire me and replace me without even telling me? She logged into the company portal to access her email. Surely if they fired her, there would be some sort of termination notice in her email that she had missed. She typed in her email and immediately it was flagged as unrecognized. Now she was sure that she had been replaced. She started to feel really angry. But quickly she turned to the company's directory where her name was not listed under her position, department, or supervisor. She scanned through the directory and quickly found her name, but to her surprise, she was in a complete different department on a different floor under a different supervisor and manager, both of whom she did not know. With this info, she logged into her email with the correct department and her password worked. No email about any termination or any changes was waiting to be opened. Her heart was about to pound out of her chest, and she started to believe that she was suffering from a mental health condition. Terrified now, she knew she needed to see a doctor immediately. She phoned her supervisor and spoke with him for what she knew to be the very first time and informed him that she wasn't going to be in the office today. She needed to use a sick day. The supervisor was very understanding and kind, and Lorena took off quickly to her car before even running into the employee whose personal space she'd just invaded. Because how crazy would that have been? Like somebody walk into her, like going through their computer, you know, and not knowing who she is.
I think I would have passed out by this point.
Oh yeah, you definitely would have.
Freaked.
You definitely would have. You would have been pale as a ghost on the floor. This new employee would have walked in. You would have been like in a puddle of sweat. Yeah, you would have. Yeah, they would be pulling you out on a stretcher.
Yeah, for sure.
The second she got into her car, she pulled out her wallet and began scanning her driver's license, debit, and credit cards. Her license reflected her correct name, birth date, and address. Nothing was out of sorts about her bank cards. They were all the same financial institution that she used. She picked up her cell phone, pulled her doctor's office number out of her contacts, and made the call. She was confused but more scared than anything and was able to get an emergency appointment based off of these concerning symptoms. Her primary care physician was quick to give her a physical exam and order a bunch of blood work. Her doctor proposed that she just might be under a lot of stress, possibly hallucinating as a result of it, and reassured her that she was probably just going through something, and she knew this wasn't stress or hallucinating. She went home and anxiously awaited the test results. Convinced something scary was happening to her brain and afraid she'd be considered crazy by her friends and family, she decided to keep all of this to herself until she had some real answers as to what she was going through, and answers she was desperately hoping for already at this point. She headed home, where she was determined to search and find more unexplainable differences. She was going to become her own real-life private investigator. She burst through a door and went to her filing cabinet. Surely some of her personal documents would tell her a different story. Her birth certificate was legitimate. It documented her mom and dad's correct name and information. She went on to different bank statements and past medical documents and recognized every bit of it. She knew there had to be something else, though, that would give her a clue as to what was going on. It couldn't just be bed sheets in her office. She realized quickly she needed support, so who better to get support from than her loving and caring boyfriend, Augustin? She grabbed her cell phone, went into her recent calls, and made the call to him. How was she going to explain this to a person that meant so much to her without scaring him away? She didn't know, but all she knew was she needed him. The ringing persisted a few times, and she knew she was bothering him at work, so she patiently waited, and she wanted to throw up from anxiety until the phone answered. But her heart immediately sank when she did not recognize the voice saying hello on the other end. "Augustin," she said. "No," the other voice responded. "You have the wrong number." Lorena was in shock and sat silently on her end with no words. She couldn't even ask any other questions before the line hung up.
But she called his name in her phone?
Yeah, apparently.
Like, did she dial his number, or?
It just said that she called him, so
okay.
I
she
assumed.
Must have just, dialed his
but
number.
Yeah, you're right. She probably just dialed it. But I don't know, who really remembers numbers like that anymore?
Right.
You know, as soon as we have cell phones,
Yeah.
You know, it's weird. Because there's like a lot of things in her life that are the same, but, maybe she's thinking that he does exist, but that number is not his number or something. I don't know. But yeah, it did just say that she called him.
Okay.
This was the harshest blow to her. Now she was extremely upset and emotional. She couldn't lose this person. He was perfect for her. After all, he lived right down the street. And she would find him. She felt strongly that she would find him because this couldn't be possible. She felt very strongly that her past 4 months relationship with him could not have been imagined. There's just no way. She was confused, but knew right away that she would go to his apartment and find him. Her confidence wouldn't even allow her to imagine that she wouldn't. She would go to the ends of the earth to get back in touch with him, and she would wait for him to get home from work and go knock on his door. Lorena got her thoughts together and decided to do some light housework. She went to her laundry basket and quickly noticed some familiar items that were not hers. How in the world did she have laundry belonging to her ex in the basket? She was positive that he took every single item that he owned 6 months ago at the time of their breakup. Her heart sank and immediately thought that maybe her ex had still had a key and was pulling some possessive crazy ex shit with her. She ran to the wardrobe that her ex had occupied and opened it. Again, her heart sank. Filled with his clothing, all his belongings, just as if it had never been touched. She ran to the bathroom, and there was his toothbrush. How'd she miss it? That's what I wondered.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's good. Go.
This is my nightmare. I have nightmares about this. This is Danny's Drama Corner.
Great.
I have nightmares about being with an ex and then waking up and realizing, like, oh my God, thank God I'm not with that person. Can you imagine waking up in another dimension and like you're back with your ex? How horrific is
Seriously,
that?
have to relive it again.
No thanks.
Go through all that.
Ugh. Worst recurring nightmare that I have.
Good to know.
One of my many recurring nightmares.
This is a good story for you. So the bathroom medicine cabinet was filled with all his personal care items. She opened up the vanity drawer and there was his damn beard trimmer. And she could not for the life of her understand this all was how it was before he moved out. Just then, in perfect timing, she heard keys outside of her apartment door, and in walked Miguel after finishing his work shift. Lorena stared in shock and fear as Miguel nonchalantly continued into her space as if it had always been his own. She asked him what he was doing and reminded him that they mutually agreed on breaking up 6 months ago, to which he very concerningly assured her that that had never happened. In fact, they were together and doing better than ever. He had never left. She decided in that moment for sure that she had to have suffered a mental breakdown or something. Miguel was acting a bit concerned, but carried on with preparing a shower and assured her that the doctors would figure out what was going on and that they would get through it. But Lorena didn't want to get through this with Miguel. She wanted Augustin. She grabbed her jacket and she made her way down the street and approached his apartment building and knocked on his door. But sadly, the person who answered was not Augustin and claimed to have never heard of him or his son, and surely he did not ever live there. To that person's knowledge, anyway. Defeated and partially sure that she wasn't crazy, Lorena knew she would hire an investigator to find Augustin. She headed back home feeling heartbroken, but knew she wouldn't let Miguel know that she wanted to find this other man and continue on with that relationship. But she was determined to find that man. She was not letting him go. In the next couple of days, all Lorena's test results checked out completely normal. No drugs were found in Lorena's system, and so the doctor recommended to follow up with neurology and a psychiatrist. Lorena was happy to do so in hopes of more in-depth testing. She visited the neurologist and psych in the same week, and both did cognitive and physical exams that all came back normal. Neurology decided to order imaging to rule out any traumatic brain injury, amnesia, and the psych was pushing hard to get her on medication. But again, all of testing and imaging came back normal, and Lorena resisted against the medication. A small part of her hoped that she would figure this all out and life would return to what she knew it was the past 6 months. She had also had high hopes when hiring this local private investigator to find her love, Augustin. Surely he had to be confused and missing her too. is what she was thinking. This had to be a misunderstanding, and she just couldn't wait to reconnect with him. But sadly, the investigator found no trace of Augustin ever existing. Ever. This news was her biggest fear coming true, and now she knew for certain that something was very, very wrong. Something wicked mysterious had happened to her. Lorena decided to pay her family a visit. She was pretty close to them and hadn't seen her sister since she had a major shoulder surgery. Her psychiatrist felt that connecting with her family and fixed familiar surroundings that she knew, like her family home, couldn't hurt. Even though it was clear she did not have amnesia or early Alzheimer's or dementia, and she certainly had no brain injury. She was looking forward to opening up to them about everything that she was going through and gained family support and love when she felt really alone. She was overjoyed to see her family and asked where her sister was and how she was recovering from her shoulder surgery when her parents' facial expressions changed. They were very concerned and assured her sister was just fine and never had any issues with her shoulder and certainly did not undergo surgery.
Wow.
Months went by and Lorena noticed that there were many subtle differences in her life, but she carried on. She accepted her new position under a new department. She caught on quickly and actually enjoyed it. Everyone around Lorena remembered her life to be just as it was. No one ever recalled her having a different position at work or ever breaking up with Miguel. No one in her life knew of Augustin. It was so odd that she could remember everything vividly over the past 6 months with zero memory gaps. But everyone else remembered the past half year very differently. She started to believe the past 6 months she knew never actually existed, and she came to the conclusion that she had to have dreamed it. Some freak unknown diagnosis could be at play here, she thought. How else could everyone she knew remember the past 6 months of her life being completely different? Until she did some researching of her experience and took a new view over it, a sort of awakening. Suddenly, she was sure that she had to have somehow merged into a different dimension. She landed on an online forum about alternate realities where she posted, desperate for help, and anyone who could relate to assure her that she was not as crazy as everyone made her feel. Her original post on the forum, translated from Spanish, reads of this. Please, if anyone has gone through something similar, please contact me. I want to know what happened to me, as no pathology can tell me what has happened to me. I've spent the last 5 months reading theories that I find online, and I'm convinced that I've jumped into an alternate reality. Some action I must have taken has changed my reality. If I did jump into a parallel universe, then why am I living in the same year? I'm the same person, just minor differences in life. To explain myself better, this is like having lost the last 5 months of my life. It's like they were all just a dream. However, everyone else has the memories of those 5 months except for me, and I've done things during that time that I have no memory of doing so. Please abstain from making jokes or telling me that you have the truth, in quotes. This is very serious to me. Thank you. And she left her email address, Lorena Garcia Gordo at yahoo.es. And I did email her.
You did?
I did.
Did she get back to you?
I don't know. I need to look right now.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
Suspenseful music.
Enter creepy suspense music. Imagine that. No, she didn't.
I'm sorry, what year was this again?
This was, my memory couldn't tell you off the top of my head, 2008.
Okay.
So not that long ago. Oops, 2008.
We're going to need an update if she gets back to you.
Real. Okay. Lorena Garcia Gordo refers to her extraordinary experience as the jump because she believes strongly that she jumped from one reality of her old life to this new life and reality. Lorena set the bar for many New Age practicing reality shifters, as Danny's talked about, and her story is widely discussed on forums, including Reddit, to this day, and her story is an inspiration for many who believe.
Yeah, but she didn't intend. Or did she?
There's no evidence that she gained any monetary value from this, if that's what you're asking.
No, but like, part of reality shifting is like your
Oh, yeah,
intention
no.
to do that.
She didn't, but I think it just set the bar for people who believed it was possible.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like a story that people that are really into reality shifting, they know. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a popular thing. Like, it is possible. You can do it. So what do you think? Did she merge into another reality? I know there's a couple of different things that, there are for theories like Mandela effect, when a person believes their distorted memories, in fact, accurate recollections, even though everyone knows I don't even believe in that definition for Mandela effect because I don't think it's distorted memories. But, we already know that.
Yeah.
But then there's something called the Capra's delusion.
Okay.
And it's a psychiatric condition that a loved one has been replaced by an identical imposter. But
Okay.
that still doesn't really fit this to me.
No. Have you ever heard of a fugue state, or did that come up at all?
No, that didn't.
So a fugue state is like a trauma response where you suddenly don't know who you are and you do all these things. If you've ever seen the show Disappeared, there was an episode where a woman had just like a mental break and she went missing for a long time and her family was looking for her and they had like video of her in different stores and stuff and she has no memory of it at all.
Wow.
And then when they eventually find the person like may or may not come to, like they may never remember who they are again, or they might remember who they are and just have no memory of what happened.
Wow.
But this doesn't sound like that, because usually like when the person has a fugue state, not that I'm like any authority on this, I don't, just from what I saw on Disappeared, like
Yeah.
you have no memory of what happened. You don't, and it
There would be
scares
loss
people
of time.
because
Yeah.
because they don't know what happened to them. They don't know like if they were hurt, they
Yeah.
don't know what they did.
But they're consciously acting about in life,
Yeah.
but they have no memory of
But
it.
they have no memory of it. But that's different than not having, like
Yeah.
full blown memories and relationships
yeah,
and stuff.
like no memory gaps in her mind at all. Like the
Right.
time was consistent.
So what about then in that episode, what was it, the Mandela effect that we talked about, the patchwork universe theory? So if that's true, then did one like patch of the universe crash into another one? And then if that can happen, has there been other accounts of this happening? Has anybody else reported this type of thing? I'm sure if it's happened in the past, they were probably like put away in an asylum or something, but I'm sure there'd be some record of it.
Yeah. I didn't actually research any other cases.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure there's got to be accounts of people claiming to have shifted into another dimension.
Now, what about Augustin?
Yeah.
So if it's something to do with him, because she never found him. So
right.
did he just like blip from the universe?
Like
and
maybe Augustin is the one that merged into an alternative, but it still doesn't explain the work thing.
maybe it does.
Maybe it
he
does.
got her that job or something. Like if everything's related, it's like it's like the seven. What is that called?
The trickle, the
Yeah,
effect.
or like not Kevin Bacon, but the 6 degrees of separation or whatever. So if you remove one of those degrees, there goes a whole bunch of shit, like
yeah,
your
that's
bed
true.
sheets,
Yeah,
and
like
your job.
a little minor detail make a huge difference
Right.
in the next.
So if it's something to do with him, like if he just
Interesting.
blipped out, do you like
Interesting.
what about his parents? Like what about his coworkers and friends?
Yeah, so 4 months in, I don't think she did. The only relationship that she talked about was his son. Like, I guess she had
Oh, that's
waited a while to meet his son, and she had just started to form a relationship with him.
and
so, like,
no trace of him either.
yeah, none of them
So
even existing.
It's probably something to do with him.
Right, because like if someone's total existence is gone, unless he only existed in another dimension and he wasn't who he was in this dimension.
Yeah.
And and like maybe she went to the other dimension for the past few months and something happened in that dimension where she lost her job and had a new job and then came back to this dimension, and like I don't know. Like, can you bounce back and forth? Because, I mean, there's been Mandela effect things
Right.
where they change, then they come back, and then they change again. And people
Yeah.
strictly remember, like, or they really remember that, like, I think it was like Fruit Loops. Like, I remember like 10 years ago being like, it's
Yes.
spelt
Yes.
like this now,
Yeah.
or whatever, and then 10 years later now I'm like, wait
Yeah.
a minute, this is how I remember it as a kid.
Right.
So
right.
it's like, is it possible?
Not to get too off topic, but
Yeah.
I've been meaning to tell you this. I saw something on TikTok that was a theory about the Mandela effect, and it's about the government, whoever you think the powers that be are, the powers that be are tricking us with the Mandela effect to confuse you so that you no longer trust your memories. But the problem I have with that is you can't fool everybody. Like if
Right.
Shazam didn't exist,
Yeah.
if they're saying Shazam didn't exist and it did, we would have proof of it somewhere.
Yeah,
There's
and-
no way that the government is like able to trace VHS tapes in somebody's like grandma's basement. There's no way. There's no way.
But what if Shazam does exist in a different dimension, but when we came back, it's not in this dimension?
Yeah, that's something different though. This theory says that it never existed,
Oh, right.
or they're trying to tell us it never existed when it did.
Yeah.
In this dimension.
And I agree with you. Like, you're not going to fool everyone. That's why some people you talk to, they're quick and easy to be like, nope, that's just your
But-
wrong memories. But how can we not trust our memories when they're that strong and there's that many of them in unison?
Yeah, and if they were just trying to trick us, there would still be proof. There would somebody somewhere would have proof. How quick they can squash that, I don't know, but like something as big as Mandela dying, there would be newspaper articles, there would be like so much physical evidence that has nothing to do with the internet that whoever, the government or whoever, can't just delete. So I don't think that's that's true. I think the Mandela effect really is dimensional. Colliding.
Me too.
Yes.
That's why, like, Mandela effect, like, it kind of fits, because like if
absolutely.
it's not the definition that like the government wants us to know of us having these bad wrong memories, and it's really in another dimension, like that movie with Ashton Kutcher, Mandela effect. You know, he goes back in time, like we've talked about, and he saves his daughter. Like, so it's like he went into a different time, like, dimension, and came back, and somehow, I don't know. But
Yeah.
like, so yeah, this is just the theories that have come forward that I've researched anyway.
What about, imagine if she just didn't, like, imagine, I don't think she's making this up, something about this sounds true to me, but just for sake of argument, imagine if she, like, just didn't want to be with Miguel anymore and, like, made up this dude in her head, and then, or, like, there was a Miguel, and, like, for whatever reason, this investigator couldn't find him or something, and she just, like, was stalking him, or, like...
Yeah, like, maybe she made Miguel up in her head. Like, I don't believe the whole...
Or you mean she made up
I'm
Augustin?
sorry. Yeah, Augustin. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe she made up this perfect man in her head, because
Right.
she did talk about how he was the perfect man and he just lived just down the street. Like,
Right.
how ironic, right?
Right.
But also, like, I don't believe when necessarily you go into a psych office and you have a 2-3 hour exam, they're not testing everything of your... You know, they want to know, they're going to read you a story and they're going to ask you to read it back, recite it back and see if your memory's okay. That doesn't cover fucking everything.
Right, and that's like the guy with that count with the corpse bride where they deemed him like mentally sound. Like, hello, like obviously
he's clearly not.
Obviously, we don't need like a psychological test to know
Exactly.
that there's something wrong with him.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't believe that psychological exams really... I mean, I think our mind is so deep. Like, maybe she really did go into like a fugue state, and they just don't have an explanation for her created memories. Like, because your brain is that deep and that smart.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know. Like,
Or
I can't.
like, the MRI is saying that there's no damage. Like, they didn't give me enough information. Was this done with contrast?
Right.
How long ago was this injury? Is it going to show up as inflammation on an MRI? Like, I don't know.
Right.
So I don't necessarily believe when I hear like everything was clear.
Right.
So it's just a crazy story. She did remember everything else except those few things. I mean, how does it
Just
explain?
the level of detail, the sheets.
Yeah,
like-
the sheets. That was
Right.
the first thing as soon as she opened her eyes. And at first she thought that was the only thing. But, oh no, there was plenty more.
Yeah.
Poor Augustin.
Well, we are at exactly 30 minutes.
Okay, well, we'll cut it here then. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you. I loved this. I was looking forward to this for so long, and I'm so glad I got to hear it. So thank you.
Yay.
Yay.
All right, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.
Stay mysterious.